Good morning. I am your instructor, Eric. Halliday, and today we're going to be going over Queen's Blood. Okay, so when you start off, you got the board. It's a 3x5 grid. You have your 3 pawns, which are blue, and your opponents, which are red. And then you also have spots on both sides. That's where your score is going to be, and we're going to get to that a little later. The first thing you got to pay attention to is your pawns, okay? When playing a card there, you can only play a card there that fits how many pawns you have in that spot, okay? But before we go into that, we need to understand what the cards are, how the cards work. So we're going to do that now. So we're going to need an example of a card. So I'm going to go with my friend Dio. For no reason. All right. Now, what you're going to notice on this card is first thing, well, probably second thing, if you know what I mean. Up here, we have how many pawns it costs. In Dio's case, 3, because of course. The next thing on the top right, you're going to see a number. That's how many points he's worth. And then sometimes down in the bottom corner, you're going to see the little star sparkly thing. That's going to mention that there is a particular ability. In Dio's case, anytime a card gets enhanced, he goes up 1 in power. So we have to remember that. How many pawns it's worth, how many points it's worth, and whether or not they have a special ability. Okay, so now that we understand the cards and we understand the board, let's say we have 4 cards here. I apologize for the incredible glare, but it is two 1-cost cards, a 2-cost card, and a 3-cost card. We'll get into the shapes on them in a minute. All right, so at the start of the game, I have 3 pawns. And each of these squares is only 1 pawn each. So I can only use a 1-pawn card in that spot, which would be either this one or this one. And I'm going to go with this one here, okay? And I'm going to play it at this spot. So when I do that, the 2 points for that card goes here. And then you're going to see that it has a square above and below. The white square is always where your card is going to go, and the yellowish ones, in my case green, because I don't have yellow, are going to be spots that it captures. So because it's going to capture these 2 spots, I get a pawn here, and then for the other spot, that's now 2 pawns, okay? So on my next turn, I can use this feller here, which is worth 4 and costs 2 pawns, okay? Now I purposely gave this one kind of a big capture area. So because it's got 2 3 and 3s like that, this would be 2 pawns. This is 2 pawns. This is 1 pawn. Up here, this is 2 pawns, 1 pawn, 1 pawn. So now you captured a bunch of the board. So now, on my next turn, I still have this 3rd card here, which is 1 pawn. And I'm going to use it at this spot for 2 points. And when I do that, the top square, if there's a thing that wouldn't fit, it would basically be about here. It's just gone. Forget about it. It's dead. Okay? So, but this one here would capture this, making it 2 pawn, and this one here making it 3 pawns. Plus, you would have your 2 points. And then for my 4th turn, I can use this 3-pawn card. And I'll play it right here, giving me 7. Now, I don't know how well you can see it, but all the squares around that one are red, not yellow. When it's red, it basically it means that anything in those particular squares is going to get a special effect. It's not going to capture it, you're not going to get any pawns, but the cards that are in those spots are going to get some sort of boost. So I'll say that this card here, any other cards within those 2 spots would be worth 2 more points. So this one here becomes a 6. This one here is now worth 4. And this one here, if you ever decide to put something there, would get +2. So that's kind of how the pawn structuring works. Now, as for the score, so for the score, obviously you add up each of the rows. So here it would be 7, 4, and 2, which would be a 13. This would be a 6, because we don't have a card there, that's just a hypothetical +2. And then down here, we have a 2. Now, to show you how the scoring happens, we're going to make up a score for the enemy, okay? So we're going to say simple 7, 5, 3. When they tally up the scores, they only tally it up for each row based off who won. So for this row, I won because 13 higher than 7, obviously. 6 is higher than 5. 2 is lower than 3. So I won 2 rows and I lost 1. For the 2 rows that I won, these don't count towards the computer's score. Just like this one here, I lost it, so that 2 doesn't count for me. So the final score would be 19-3. So hopefully that, that helps a little bit. Another big thing that you have to remember is capturing. Capturing pieces is a huge component to the game, and if you focus heavily on it, you can actually get a lot of easy wins against the computer based off how quickly you kind of capture their side. What that means is, like, let's say, boop, boop, boop. All right, so let's say in this case, these are all the computer's pieces. There's cards all over the place. If I take this 2-cost card that captures to the side and one below, and I pop it up here at this spot, I'm not only going to put a pawn there, but also I'm going to capture that spot with a pawn of my own that I can then use. Now, it doesn't add 1, so taking over the red pawn just turns it blue. It doesn't make it 2. I did not mean for that to rhyme. But what this also means is, like, let's say at the bottom here, I play this 1-cost card that captures these 3, and I pop it right here. This gets captured, becomes 2. This is mine, becomes 1. And then this one here, where they have 3 reds, I now have 3 pawns of my own. So not only does it guarantee that you control the board, but you just made yourself a 3-pawn spot without having to work for it. So if you focus on that, getting across, capturing spots, you'll eventually make it so that they can't take a turn. I've had games where I basically just swooped across the bottom and went up. The computer was blocked, and I got to take my time putting one card down at a time, things like that. It it was easy. That's one of the ways I ended up with a 64-0 score the other day. It's it's the best strategy you can do is just going in and capture. There's a lot of more advanced strategies that involve depowering the opponent, destroying the opponent's cards, things like that. Which, if you want to get into that stuff later, fine. But I will be real with you. It's as long as you go across and capture, that's the best strategy I can give you. If you need advice on a deck, this is the current deck that I am using. And yeah, that's about it. If you got any other questions, just comment below. Good luck and enjoy the weird side story that is Queen's Blood.